Hi, this is Praios and I'm a professional gambler. Today we will do another review type video, which I will look into the video made recently by Poker Code with Fedor Holz, in which he will explain to us how to study poker. But before we get into that, also consider to join my second channel, where I will talk about finance, cryptocurrency, money, Bitcoin, and all this good stuff. Yep. Okay. As this is all of the way, let's jump into the video.
2013, like min raising was bad. Limping.
Okay, it's a bit. Make it just the volume a bit.
Immediate fish. Donking, terrible. Now everyone, like lots of people are limping, lots of people start donking. Like min raising is the standard.
Yeah, it's also different between No Limit Hold'em and Pot Limit Omaha. And No Limit Hold'em donking is not that common, at least as far as I know. But for Pot Limit Omaha, it was common all the time.
I think for every athlete in everything or everything you do, it's always the same. It's your technical knowledge, your physical capability, your psychic or mental capabilities. I think so. For me, there's one step before that when it's around your mindset, how you approach things. Because I think, Rafi, the spot we're in is a spot a lot of people are in. And I would say it's not so much about your technical knowledge, where it is about the trajectory of how you will progress over time. And that's the thing I try to, like people who say, oh, I want to make it, in terms of become a pro, play full time, travel to stops, like have freedom in a sense, make enough money that you can make free choices and enjoy what you're doing. I would say the number one thing I say is do not look at where you are right now. Like that's also, and that refers to all of the, like when you tilt about outcomes, think about it this way, where the outcomes that happen right now matter literally zero. Like whether you win this tournament or not, you cash $800 or not, matters literally zero. It matters if you progress as a player and as a person or not. Because that's the thing, if you look at that trajectory, it doesn't make a difference if you have a 20k bankroll or a 120k bankroll, because if you're a great player, like you like what you're doing and you're in great shape, the EV you make from then on is 300k a year. So the 100k difference is not and like I'm talking about how, like,
I mean, it is relevant because if you don't do stakings, you can play less tournaments if you want to be in the limits with the bankroll management. And yeah, you can scale up a lot better when you have more money to start with. And if you are poor but the best player in the world and you start with like $10, it would take a decent amount of time to grind that up. So yeah, this is not true, but yeah, I guess if you look into this very long term, at some point you will have a decent bankroll and be able to play everything.
in your case it's maybe 18k EV or 8k EV or something like that. So the variance in the beginning doesn't matter at all. That's, in hindsight, one of the things I did by far the best compared to all the people around me is I was just constantly investing money in my growth. So I was playing stakes I couldn't beat because I wanted to. I played cash games against the best. I played hyper sit and goes. I played heads up sit and goes. I played because it constantly kept me to get better at the game. And so I played 25-50. This boosted my tournament game so much because I played against the best. It was like suddenly now there was the first person who started betting 15% in a 4-bet pot. And I was like, interesting. Okay, why is one of the best cash game players doing that? So I learned so much from playing against them, where maybe I lost 22k in EV, but for the trajectory of my career, I had 5 more years where I could improve.
I mean, you could just rail the game and watch what they are doing, and you don't need to play yourself in order to have this experience as well. But you could look into the biggest pots, so it's not necessarily you have to do that. And yeah, you could also move up incrementally, just so if you can beat let's say NL600, play there. When you showed there that you are a winner, let's say you have a decent win rate, when you can move up and steadily improve, there's no need to jump to a stake that is way higher than you can afford, and where the skill gap is too big. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that.
Implement the things that I learned from them into all the other things I was doing. So in your shoes, I would think about it exactly the same way. When you talk about a hand that you struggle post-flop, you have to struggle. If you don't struggle right now, you're doing it wrong. Like, that's the thing, the struggle is the best thing that can happen to you. If I play, like I started playing spin and goals right now, I sit there and I struggle every third hand. Every third hand. I played so many shots that can probably more than all of you combined, and I still sit there with 6.3 big blinds, and I'm not sure if queen 4 off, you know, like, it's 7.2, call it out. Like, there's so much granular knowledge there where you can always go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. It's about your mindset if you want to find out about it.
That's true. I mean, I also question my decisions a lot. Even sometimes the things where I'm like, I'm 99% sure, but let's check it. And sometimes you get surprising results. And yeah, this is also in the beginning, your amount you give to study should be way higher, or at least equally as high as the amount spending playing, because you have to learn that much. And once you learn things, the time you use studying can be decreased over time, because you are familiar with a lot of situations already. So yeah, study a lot, especially in the beginning when you don't know much yet. And if you are unsure about something, don't be like, oh, okay, I was unsure about whatever. Make screenshots, mark the hand, go back later to this spot, and then try to learn from this situation and put it in a solver, talk with friends about it. Yeah, try to be sure about the spot later, or when something similar comes up. I mean, the good thing is, if you analyze one situation, it's not only beneficial for this spot, but also for spots that are similar. So yeah, you will learn way more than this specific situation by getting into the rabbit hole there.
Because you can also sit there and be like, okay, I play the hands I know, I see that the sizes I know, and like then thinking is zero. You can play an entire MTT session and think zero. But you can also then go out of your way and think like, okay, why do I believe the things that I believe right now?
That's actually true in Procar. There's not that much thinking involved as you think, or as beginners might assume, because a lot of things are just standard and automatically, and that's why you can play 20 tables at once, because 19 decisions are just standard and you just click it without even having to think about it, and only like every 20th hands you have to put some brain work into. And this also is bad, because sometimes things go on autopilot where you should have thought more. So be careful that you don't autopilot too much. And this happens especially if you play long sessions, or if you are tired and not on your A game. And this is also a thing that people can improve on, and should, to increase their win rate.
And what are things that I believe that might be good to change? And then you start sitting there, and like still today, I sit there and I'm like, should I open ace-3 suited undergun or not? Because it is not so clear. Even if there is a chart, the moment the big blind VP IP is 4% too little, I open it. So it's this spot where I constantly think, like I mark 50 hands a session. Even if I play, you know, it's just every 10th hand I play, I'm like, oh, I don't.
It seems like he has an approach pretty similar to mine, as he does a lot of marking of hands. And yeah, if you want to see me do study sessions, there are a lot of videos on my channel. This would be for PLO, where I sit there 2 hours or something, just going through hands, trying to analyze if I did the right or wrong thing. And yeah, it might be beneficial to you. So yeah, feel free to check these out as well. They are not that popular because people don't want to go through something where people study, where people it is boring if you just want action and high stakes, so to speak.
No, maybe different sizing against that specific player, information that comes in, and so on. So what I want to say is, I think the beauty of the game as well is to create an environment for you where you're at your maximum capacity to grow, and not at your maximum capacity to make money right now. That is the difference. So
he's talking about future EV, so maybe giving up a bit money now to greater expectation in the future. So this is like could spend all your money now or invest it into something and have 10% more in 1 year or whatever the time frame might be. So this makes a lot of sense, but I think it's hard to find an example other than playing against people that are way better than you and try to learn this way, where this actually is a concept that makes sense in poker.
if you talk about streaming and you talk about your career and you talk about skill level, it's about being a better player. You will play higher stakes. Playing higher stakes, you will get more viewers. Like, understanding the game better, you can explain your plays.
Yeah, I think streaming actually, if you want to be the best, is not a good idea. I think most of these guys stream because they want to promote their product. In this case, it's Poker Code. Jay Nendes streams because he wants to promote the PLO Mastermind, or they might promote other products, but it's definitely not plus EV to stream because people can pick up things on you which they would not be able to do if you did not show them all the whole cards. I mean, if they play normally with you on the table, they just see cards that get to showdown. And if they watch you stream, let's say 10 hours, and see everything in single hand, they can pick up so much things about you. So streaming definitely is minus EV on its own, but it can become plus EV if you like promote your product or have affiliate links or stuff like that, or the ad revenue that comes in through YouTube and Twitch and stuff. By the way, I currently own nothing from ad revenue because my channel is not monetized. Maybe I should do that.
Like, you can collaborate with more people, you can do more stuff in the future, you can travel to more live spots. It's everything comes from just being better at what you're doing. So
there's actually one thing why streaming might be beneficial, because you constantly have to explain spots, and maybe you find flaws that way in your own game. And if you coach people, the coach often is a dude learning the most, because the concepts then get even deeper in their mind, and they might find things that weren't that clear yet. So explaining stuff and teaching is not only beneficial to the trainee, but also to the trainer.
I would say the main thing is forget about any result. Like, it's literally playing is only to hone your craft right now. If you make 1K or 3K a month, it shouldn't make a difference. If it changes your lifestyle, okay, that's the difference, right? Like, make sure that you are free and that you.
I think in the beginning of your career, you should be living on a very cheap basis and try to spend as little as possible to grow your bankroll as fast as possible, so that you can play comfortable even on the bigger stakes. Then you could start spending it, because the money is a lot better invested, and you can play higher stakes. I mean, even if the win rate drops a bit, but the stakes double, you will earn so much more in dollar EV. So keep that in mind. So don't spend it all on a new Lambo, invest in yourself.
You don't have to think about food and rent and like all that stuff. Yes, but anything beyond that, all into your growth. And design an environment that you like. That's also something. I think the reason why I learned so fast is because I wanted to know. It's like when I talk to people and they tell me, oh, I study.
I think that's also a big thing. A lot of people hate studying, and that's why they don't get deep into the rabbit hole. And if you hate something, it will also not get into your memory as good as if you enjoy it. I mean, I always enjoyed doing these study sessions because I was very curious and wanted to know what I exactly should do there. And yeah, many people are not like that. So I'm more like from the academical side, and I really want to know and like to study, and like to use my brain until I feel like I'm totally exhausted, but not because I did something physical, just because of thinking so much.
9 in the morning, 2 hours, and like it's kind of a grind. Like I never had that in my entire career. I marked 40 hands. I wanted to know. I woke up. I sat down. I looked it up because I wanted to know, not because I set a time limit.
Yeah, that's a very good approach, Tim. And yeah, that's also the one I always had, still have.
Like, if you don't want to study, then in studying is more like learning. It's asking someone, is hey, how would you play this? Or you know, it's like, I often play hands. I'm like, I really want to know what a solver would do with these times. Like, I want to know, and that drives me learning. So
I wonder who the guys are he's talking to. Maybe this is a course he gave or something.
I would also take these opportunities right now. If you feel like you don't want to learn, then look into that. Because if you don't feel like learning, there's no environment, like there's nothing that will like help you force yourself to learn. Maybe then you want to play poker in a different way. It's also no problem to play it for fun and 5 hours a week. Like I think that's really one of the biggest misconceptions I come across all the time is people who say, oh, I want to be a full-time pro and I want to play high stakes, but they don't like most of the things that it require playing that. Yeah. So it's like if you don't enjoy it.
Yeah, people often think it's easy money. And even a lot of people said, oh, you have such a nice life. You can go stand up when you want, you can play when you want, you're totally free to do whatever you want, make a lot of money. Then I'm always was like, yeah, everyone can do that. Just do it yourself. And yeah, you also don't see a lot of things that go in there. It's not that easy, and you just don't get it. It's just like what the media is telling you, but in reality, there's a lot more hard work going in there, and it's also not like that you can do whatever you want, because if there's a huge fish online and you are on the table, you cannot just leave. At least you would lose a lot of EV if you gave up on many of these most profitable spots. So yeah, you are not that flexible and free with your time than some people might assume. And it always was the case that it's way better to play in the afternoon. So it's not that wise to play in the morning, for example. So, and this was even more true back in the days where USA people were still able to play, and then it was recommended to play in the night and stay up late, and you couldn't have a normal day-night routine. You were basically grinding all night and sleeping on the daytime.
Learning that 30 hours a week, then not, and maybe it's not. If you just same was for me as 3 years ago. If I don't enjoy it, I cannot compete on the high level. So I can play for fun and I would travel when I want to, but I'm not going to be on that level. So that's as much for.
But there's one thing I want to add. It's way easier to get good in poker because you have the solver and put in everything there. And yeah, so that's a very easy thing to do. And back in the day, it was way harder because you had to actually be able to do all the math and put in assumptions about your opponent. So this should be his range. And if you mess up at any point, you might get results that were completely screwed. And if you used this advice or the solutions you made, it would be completely messed up. So, and now you got the solver, you got a solution that is very good already, and there's not much fine-tuning that could be done. At least if you play against good players. Against bad players, you can throw the solvers out of the window more or less and have to go back to this exploitable approach and build the range that might apply for this guy, because it's often way wider than it should be, and yeah, you have to adjust for that.
Or that high level, I would really suggest you here as well to use that time to put all of it into your growth as a person, and with that also as a player. Like, I would literally just focus on that, and then take each area that you can and try.
Growth of the person, I think not that much personal growth, you're just growing as a poker player. But yeah, some of the concepts he explained also are helpful for life.
Try to look at, okay, how can I get better at that? Like, I make examples, grind schedule. It was mind-boggling to me with the guys in the Grindhouse, how I looked at each of their schedule and I was like, what are you doing? It's like, so often they started like at weird times, and they played 3 tables, and then they mixed tournaments that made no sense, and then they play. I was like, when I sit down, I know exactly when I sit down, I know exactly the schedule I'm gonna play. I play 9 tables the entire time, and when I'm done, I go to sleep. Like, there's no.
Oh, that's very well organized, but yeah, for cash games, this is also not possible. I mean, in tournaments, this works, but in cash games, when you just don't have, when the games are not running, or if there are only regulars waiting, it's often just not possible to say, okay, I'm playing 9 tables now. Sometimes it will be 1. Sometimes you could have way more, and you have to restrict yourself in order to not get overwhelmed and time out on all tables, because you could have played whatever number of tables way more than you could handle. So yeah, for cash games, this is not that great of an advice, but for tourneys, this is true.
This laptop there on the 3 table, like, I play, and when I play, I focus because I want to play. And this entire thing of like, I start a session, and in the middle of the session I don't really want to play anymore, that to me is that's not proper.
Yeah, that's not working, man. You say, okay, I'm burned out, or cannot concentrate anymore, I want to quit my session. This is not working for tournaments, because you have to play until you are bust on all of them, and yeah, that's also a very annoying part about playing tournaments, and that's why I only do cash games, because I want to be able to quit whenever I want, and not when the fucking tourneys are over.
Proper prep. And so that is just one thing that sets you up for success. Same thing with preflop ranges, right? Like, it is one of the easiest things to learn. It's like literally a pop quiz. It's like, if you don't understand.
Yeah, learning preflop nowadays is very easy. Although you still have to make adjustments which are not GTO against the worst players, because yeah, when the ranges are wider, you obviously can raise them wider. So yeah, keep that in mind. But yeah, it's very easy to learn these ranges nowadays.
What to open from the cutoff 30 big blinds deep, like, you don't need to play a tournament to know that. You can literally, like, you can play a quiz where you just open close. Like, that's the thing where when you only VPI 24%, like, I don't mean that as an insult, but you ignore one of the most obvious common knowledges, basically, right? And that's the thing where I'm saying is, if something is obvious, try to work on the obvious things first, and then the other things, because then you have a better starting point, and then the struggle comes, and that's great, because then you're exactly at the point where you should be.
I think people often set their priorities wrong, or they are used to studying pre-flop and they do pre-flop all the time, but their leagues are post-flop, but they don't study post-flop. Because, yeah, one moment. Okay, we are back. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, well, where was I? Yeah, you should do the things that are most beneficial and have the biggest gains. For example, let's say you want to, what is a good poker example? You are terrible in pre-flop. You are playing 50 VPIP and think that you are correct. Well, maybe you don't think, but you just think it's more fun and don't improve. But you are using solvers to analyze the play on the flop and turn it river. This just makes no sense. You have to go to the area where you could gain the most first, and this would be to learn pre-flop properly, and then you could start doing the post-flop things. Do the things, if you have many things lined up, do the things that have the most impact on your win rate first, and then move down. So this improves my win rate 2 BBs, then to go to the next thing, this is 1.5 BB, this is 1 BB, this is 0.5. So don't do the other order the other way around, because this is very inefficient and bad. So the biggest things, the biggest leaks has to be fixed first, and then go to the smaller ones.
Yeah, learning the things that you should be improving at. And I think the other thing that what you mentioned is around that mindset of when you question what. So I think also one of the biggest reasons, if I look at poker players' progression, I very often have that feeling that it's like this type of progression. It's like there's not really progression. So it's I see so many in my career, like so many players where I feel like the only thing they do is they execute a program they learn.
Yeah, I think there's people get to a certain level and then they stop progressing. And sometimes it's hard to progress because you are that high up already and you can only make very incremental things to get better. But some people are just, okay, I'm earning my rent and also have a relative good life. I'm making like whatever, 3K a month, and they are okay with it and they just don't want to spend time studying. I mean, that's okay, but don't complain about that if you don't put in the time and effort. Maybe even the money. I mean, you could buy tools or get a coach and stuff, and this would probably make you better, but you just don't do it, and then you shouldn't complain about it.
And kind of, it's like just grind it out. It's like they grind 3-4 days a week. They play exactly the same style. Nothing changes basically. It's not.
Yeah, this is stupid, but so many people do it. They are just grinding 24/7 basically, and some of them are even loving what they are doing. I would hate it, but yeah, people are different.
Not much style. Like it's this. I've seen so many players. Like they reach a certain, they grind up, they reach a certain level, and then there's content, and then it's like okay. And the thing with content is, it always comes with the idea of I know now. There's always this point where you think now I know, now I get it. Like now I've figured it out, and it's the way people think right now. PO came out, and people are like now it's solved. So no, it's like there's gonna be solvers that will crush PO by 10-15 big blinds. Like it's gonna be totally different. Like even right now I see already we have solutions like everything, like there's gonna be certain things where everything you believe to be true will totally change. Because even the pre-flop solutions we have right now are based on simplified post-flop solutions. So
I think there will not be that much change anymore. I mean, it's true that a lot of things got simplified already because you cannot allow the solver to have any bet size, for example. You often just choose one, and this obviously cannot be optimal, but this are incremental changes that probably don't have that big of an effect on your win rate. So I don't think that there's that much more to come that will change the game as much as solvers did. But yeah. You'll see in the future who's right about that.
That will change entirely. We have no multi-way properly solved. We don't have multi-way deep stack. We don't have it all solved.
Yeah, true. Multi-way, we are quite lost still, and we need more powerful computers to solve these equilibriums as well.
ICM is a big fuck up. Like, there's so many things where you will look at it in 3-4 years and poker will be played totally different. So be aware that everything you believe right now is bad in that sense of, in the framework of you believing it's good or it's fine. Like, there's nothing good and nothing bad. It's just endless room to learn. So when you think that, like, because you said one specific sentence that you're happy with your game right now, and that's great, but I also want to push that there's never this point where it's good now.
I also wonder why the fuck are they standing up? Why they are not just sitting at a table or something? This makes no sense. Or is this just for video purpose?
And I don't mean that in a sense of beating yourself up all the time, but it's more like, oh, curiosity. Like, oh, what about this? Like, maybe I can do that. Because that's this level of, it's a level of ignorance where people stop, like, you also use it as an, like, oh, this guy's bad, he did that. 2013, like, min raising was bad. Or 12 or 11. Like, everyone, like, limping, immediate fish. Donking, terrible. Now everyone, like, lots of people are limping, lots of people start donking, like, min raising is the standard.
I think limping most of the time is still terrible. In tourneys it's fine in some situations, but cash games is still bad.
Like, it's so many things where, like, if people say something, assume something without even having any type of idea why they came to that conclusion, mostly because it's just things people say and then they start believing that. And the same for PO, right? Like, does anyone know how, like, can you really understand what the mathematical equation,
By the way, min raising for PLO is also bad. You go for pot always.
the equilibrium is, so that you can understand where it might be flawed. Right, like, that's the thing. Can people really understand ICM and the calculation behind it to understand, maybe that doesn't match so much? Like, this is the thing where I want to challenge you to start thinking in ways where, no, what makes sense to you? Like, start being independent, where something comes in and you look at it, does that make sense to you? And being really, really honest of, like, do you really understand what that is? Do you really understand what someone talks about ICM? Do you, like, even if it's a really good player, do you really understand what he means? Because sometimes they don't know what they mean. And that's the thing where I've seen it so many times, people who are great at arguing, great at making statements, like, these are the people who get listened to the most, but it's not necessarily the best game plan.
Yeah, great video. Enjoyed it. Yeah, I think a lot of people can get a lot out of this. With my remarks, it's hopefully even better. So yeah, thanks for watching. Do all the healthy stuff you want to do on YouTube and Twitch. Follow, subscribe, like, bell notification on. Yeah, also consider to follow me on the channels you are not on. So I'm on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Yeah, bye bye until next time.